Britain's economic journey, to say the least, has been a captivating tale spanning centuries, characterised by periods of rapid growth, innovation and transformation. It's evolved from its agrarian origins to the top of the Industrial Revolution and the contemporary global economy. As such, Britain boasts several prestigious universities and corporations that keep it at the forefront of emerging technologies, including AI and vaccines. Their wealth is concentrated predominantly in the frequently visited southeastern region, which contains everything from magnificent country estates to esteemed educational institutions and well-funded Oxbridge colleges, along with lucrative employment opportunities at multinational corporations. For all the affluence you do see there though, there's a different narrative that emerges, and that's what we'll be looking at in this video. The issue is simple. Britain's economy has experienced setbacks since the financial crisis of 2008, with notable challenges in productivity and wage levels. The global financial crisis had a severe impact on Britain's economic growth engine, and in a bid to reduce escalating deficits, the British government chose to adopt measures focusing on debt reduction rather than strategies addressing issues related to productivity and overall demand. As expected, the outcomes were detrimental, with real wages declining for 6 consecutive years and real household incomes remaining stagnant for the past 15 years. To provide context, in 2007, the average British household was 8% worse off than Norway and 6% less well off than the US. However, these deficits have since surged dramatically, reaching 20% compared to Norway and 16% compared to the US. With these issues in place, Britain also recently lost its position as the world's 5th largest economy to India, having faced a challenging few months marked by surging energy costs, double-digit inflation, the passing of its longest-reigning monarch, and the resignation of its shortest-serving Prime Minister. And now, there are many challenges that analysts have attributed Britain's economic downturns to, but one that stands out, and we'll examine it right now, is Britain's reduced real household income rates. You don't need to be an expert economist to know that real household income plays a significant role in driving economic activity. Its growth supports individual well-being, standards of living, consumer spending, and contributes to overall economic expansion. On the other hand, its reduction can have terrible effects on economic growth, income equality, government finances, as well as savings and investments. And this was shown in a survey by the Resolution Foundation, which reported that 11% of Britons, equivalent to 6 million people, go without food when hungry due to financial constraints. Additionally, 60% of adults, equivalent to 32 million people, have worsening financial situations compared to what was at the start of 2022. Now, this predicament can be traced back to the stagnation of Britain's economic growth engine. The low-growing economy not only affects living standards, but has also necessitated higher taxes for terrible public services. The education system, for instance, is struggling on multiple fronts, with schools facing financial constraints and a shortage of teachers. The National Health Service, on the other hand, is also in a state of decline, because although historically the UK used to allocate fewer resources to healthcare compared to equally prosperous nations, Britain's current per capita health spending is now lower than that of Canada, Australia, France, Denmark, the Netherlands, Germany, and several others. This outcome is quite unsurprising too, given the UK's 3-decade-long preference for finance over industry. The government's inclination has always catered more towards austerity rather than investment, and that decision is what has led to decreasing wages and alarmingly low production levels. Now let's talk about these productivity levels. Britain currently ranks among the countries with the lowest productivity in the developed world, signifying that British workers generate fewer goods and services per hour. But it wasn't always like that. From the years 2000 to 2007, Britain's productivity growth was second only to that of the United States among the G7 countries, with an annual average rate of 1.9% growth in output per hour. However, with the global financial crisis of 2008, a devastating impact on Britain's productivity came about, and between 2009 and 2022, the country experienced the second slowest productivity growth rate among the G7. The consequence of this lost growth over a decade have been profound, because if Britain's productivity growth rate had not declined after the global financial crisis, its GDP per person would be a whole 18% higher than it actually is today. Now, The causes and extent of Britain's productivity growth challenge have been subjects of various discussions by analysts and economists. However, one thing they all agree on is the role Britain's low investment rate has played in keeping this challenge quite active. Investment is, of course, a key driver of productivity growth. We know that by infusing resources into capital assets, technology and human capital, investment empowers businesses to streamline operations, adopt cutting-edge technologies and enhance their workforce's skills. Now, these improvements are what collectively result in increased efficiency and the production of higher quality goods and services within shorter and longer timeframes. However, the UK is characterised by low levels of investment. Since the financial crisis, the business investment rate in the UK has declined even further from already relatively low levels seen in the 2000s, and this has left the UK trailing behind its counterparts with comparable economies of their own. For example, according to the Resolution Foundation, while Britain's investment in research and development as a percentage of their GDP exceeds the OECD average, it still lags behind countries like the US, Japan and Germany. Additionally, the UK also falls short in terms of a broader range of intangible investments, such as market research, branding and training. This deficiency in investment across these areas, coupled with a lack of skills, accounts for the productivity gap between the UK and its peer nations. Now, an important question that runs through our minds is, why exactly are businesses reluctant to invest in the UK significantly? Well, the likely answer is elevated uncertainty, both at the individual firm level and within the broader economy. Now, if you didn't know, Britain has had a trajectory of economic policy uncertainty over the past 25 years, and this problem only escalated following the financial crisis and reached its peak with the Brexit referendum. For instance, let's look at what happened after the financial crisis unfolded. After the crisis happened, the British government stepped in to bail out British banks, incurring an estimated cost of £141 billion and exposing itself to liabilities exceeding £1 trillion in the process. At the same time, the government also launched a £31 billion stimulus package, extended unemployment benefits and accelerated capital expenditure to revive the economy. All this was done in a bid to prevent a collapse of the British economy. However, intent alone wasn't enough. These actions taken by the government actually resulted in several years of budget deficits and a debt burden that reached approximately 70% of Britain's GDP. After this happened, the Conservative-led government then introduced austerity measures in 2010 to eliminate budget deficits by reducing government spending across various sectors, including the police, road maintenance, libraries, courts, prisons and housing assistance for seniors. The primary goal of these measures was to shrink the UK's deficit bill to instill confidence in the financial markets and thereby foster economic growth. As expected, the measures did have some impact in reducing the deficit, but their contribution to Britain's overall economic growth remained very limited. As a matter of fact, the UN reported at the time that the Conservative government's effort to curtail state spending were criticised for entrenching high levels of poverty and causing unnecessary suffering in one of the world's wealthiest nations. Now, let's look at the decision to pursue Brexit. It still remains one of the biggest showcases of Britain's elevated uncertainty that has created negative results for its economy. After Brexit was finally done and dusted, the Bank of England estimated a reduced investment rate of 25% suffered over a 5-year period until 2021 by Britain's economy, primarily due to, you guessed it, increased uncertainty. See, the issue with Britain's policy uncertainty extends beyond the government's reluctance to acknowledge the country's economic decline as a challenge. It actually reflects their complete denial of it. The Conservative government persist in assuring themselves that the nation's prosperity remains unscathed. Right-wing supporters do so out of patriotic enthusiasm, while left-wing proponents use this stance to advocate for increased spending, asking why benefits are inadequate, despite the UK ranking as the 6th largest global economy. However, when we examine other Anglophone countries, we see a strikingly different scenario. The average American, for instance, is 39% wealthier and 38% more productive than the average Briton. Also, housing in the US is considerably more affordable and young people enjoy a better financial standing compared to their British counterparts. So you see that the UK, once the pioneer of the Industrial Revolution that transformed the world, now lags behind with some of the poorest productivity statistics among major economies. Additionally, once the nation that used to be the world's most influential global empire opted to restrict global access to trade and talent explicitly through Brexit, immigration, exports and foreign investment all declined, causing a long-term reduction in the size of the UK economy by several percentage points. The UK now serves as an example for other nations grappling with a combination of deindustrialisation, economic stagnation and hostility towards foreigners. Having shifted its focus from industry to finance, the UK's economy has proven to be less resilient, and the decision to pursue Brexit has not only undermined the nation's potential for economic growth, but has also been compounded by the adverse effects of austerity measures on the well-being of the British population. So, in all, since the 2008 financial crisis, the UK has endured a protracted period of wasted opportunities. But there is optimism that in the coming decade we may see a more productive trajectory come about. Whether that is set in stone or not, we'll just have to wait and see how the British government continues to address its challenges to determine whether or not that's the case. Alright, that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Also, share this video and press that post notification bell so you don't miss out on our future videos. We analyse the latest trending economic news, so watch out. And until next time, take care.